everyone. Hi, my name is Andy Lax, the host of the 7 Questions Guide, where we ask 7 questions, at least 7 good questions, to successful, prominent entrepreneurs and marketers such as Mike Pettigrew. Questions about their latest venture. And Mike, thank you so much for appearing on the 7 Questions Guide today.
Most welcome. It's my honor. Thank you, Andy.
Fantastic. I thought I would start off with this because I've read about success in general. I used to be a school guidance counselor, and many people refer to, and I think you even refer to, the success mindset. I should do air quotes, but can you give your interpretation, what you feel the success mindset constitutes?
Great question, Andy. Great question. And, first let's look at what a poverty mindset is, because I think most people will be quite familiar with it. And a poverty mindset is when we're always obsessing on lack and worrying about the future. And this is a very human thing to do. And we all do it to varying extents. And I think the poverty mindset is expecting more bad stuff to happen and actually being pessimistic and having a limited view of actually what's possible for our own lives. And also being afraid to create big goals because we may be disappointed, because we may not achieve them. And also the poverty mindset would be allowing temporary defeat to stop us from moving forwards and trying again. And I think so many people can relate to this. And it really comes down to our dominant thoughts and emotions. If they are negative, that creates a poverty mindset. So what is a success mindset? The success mindset is the complete opposite to that. It's being optimistic and positive about the future. And it's about refusing to be defeated by temporary setbacks and challenges. I think a wonderful example of this was Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison, he invented the incandescent light bulb that lights the homes of the world, although it's maybe not so as much as today with LED lighting. But for over 100 years, his incandescent light bulb has lighted every home on the planet. And Thomas Edison, he failed 10,000 times. Every time he tried to get this incandescent light bulb to work and it didn't, he felt that he was one step closer to achieving his objective. And I remember an interview, a reporter interviewed him and said, "How come you didn't, give up years ago? This sounds insanity to me. 10,000 attempts." And as I say, Thomas Edison said, "Every time I failed, I knew I was one step closer because I learned yet another way that would not work." So I think if we look at the lives of highly successful people, this is a very common trait. They are people that have not allowed temporary defeat to crush them. They've picked themselves up, they've dusted themselves down, and they tried again, and they failed again, and they try again. But most human beings, most of us, give up at the first or second hurdle, and that's it. And then we give ourselves a big pat on the back and saying, "Well, at least I tried." But the people who are incredible winners in life are people who go the extra mile, who refuse to give in. So really, it's a test of our persistence. Persistence is really important. Also, the success mindset, having the confidence in our ability to create what we want. That's another trait of the success mindset, and feeling enthusiastic rather than pessimistic about the future, and dreaming big, because as we start to get results, there are ways that we can create this success mindset, and we'll go into this in a moment. But gradually, what will happen if we take these actions, gradually our realm of possibility starts to enlarge. It becomes greater. We start having bigger dreams, bigger goals, because we realize that there's a good chance we will be able to do it. So another thing that I really feel is an important trait in the success mindset is feeling and expressing gratitude frequently, because gratitude acts like a magnet. It draws into our lives wonderful things, but resentment, complaint, and bitterness closes the door on everything. We cannot benefit. So really what I'm saying is that our dominant thoughts and emotions actually create the circumstances of our lives. In fact, everything that we're going to cover today really can be summarized in that short sentence. Our dominant thoughts and emotions create the circumstances of our lives.
Thank you. That was a tremendous answer. Great. And I love the fact of the example that you brought up with Thomas Edison, just not giving up until that success occurs and
Absolutely.
believing that it will happen. That's been my drawback, Mike, if I can relate a personal message to you.
Sure, please do.
I was the guy who was diving at the first base. I don't quit. I don't stop until, if ever, that happy moment occurs where you either get that medal or that success or that certificate. But it's maintaining that degree of confidence. You mentioned confidence.
Absolutely.
While I'm doing this and I'm striving for excellence and still just not being able to grasp it, I feel like, will this ever happen? It's that I don't know. Do we know for sure? Did Thomas Edison always maintain that confidence? It seemed like he did from the biographies that I read. That's the part, and that's what I was hoping you can get into about keeping and embracing that sense of confidence despite negative outcomes along the way. Now, I'm still going to go, as you said, persevere, and that stick-to-itiveness is there, but it's the confidence that I lack while I do it, and that self-fulfilling prophecy is negative. So I'm wondering, relate the Millionaire Mind Secrets to embracing that confidence, keeping it going despite negative outcomes, and maybe what other methods you can suggest. I know you can't give too much away, but certain secrets that you can give away to my audience that will help them to achieve that success mindset and success in general.
Great question, Andy. And you're right. Look, we're all human beings, and we all get our confidence shaken from time to time, and that's natural. But I think you've hit on something really, really, really important. You know, how do we cultivate this success mindset? And it really is gaining confidence. That is the key. And how do we gain confidence that we can achieve our goals? I think it really comes down to starting small. And goal setting can be incredibly powerful. Writing down our goals and, you know, converting those goals into action steps, keeping ourselves accountable. But there's no point in having a crazy wild goal like becoming a rock star in 6 months from now, and we're not even able to sing. That's, you know, crazy. So we need to create goals for ourselves that they could happen, but maybe slightly unlikely to happen. So we need to stretch our realm of possibility slightly. And then when we actually achieve that goal and we see that the formula actually works, then we go on to creating bigger goals and having a bigger vision for what's possible for our lives. So I think it's like a flower opening. I think this confidence, we grow it gradually, and we grow this confidence through proof that the formula works. So I think that's another factor that's really, really, really important in cultivating this success mindset, is to start to recognize and overcome our inner negative talk, because we all have this, we're all assailed by this demon inside us almost that tells us, you're no good, what's the point? You tried before and failed, or it's going to be too difficult, or you'll have to sacrifice too much to achieve it. We all have this negative inner voice, and for most people, it actually dominates their lives, and it prevents ordinary people from becoming extraordinary. I honestly believe that we are all capable of incredible things in our life and making a huge difference in society. But it's this negative inner voice that is very subtle, but has a powerful effect over keeping extraordinary people quite ordinary and small. So learning to recognize and overcome this negative inner talk is really, really, really important. And there are all sorts of different ways of doing that. One of them is through the power of affirmations, and another one is through hypnosis. And affirmations are simply a way of reprogramming our own mind. And an affirmation is simply a positive statement we make to ourselves, okay? And it needs to be in the present tense. It needs to be positive, personal, and specific. And to give an example, if you have a great fear of public speaking, and you know you've got to give a speech in front of 1,000 people, you could be quaking in your shoes, but affirmation can help dramatically. And just an affirmation, something like along the lines of, I am a confident, happy public speaker, or I love public speaking, or I love public speaking and I'm confident whenever I speak in front of large audiences. Repeating that affirmation, okay, there was a few variations there that I threw in, but repeating that affirmation morning and evening, you might think, how simplistic, it couldn't possibly work. But the fact is, it does work. It's a way of reprogramming our mind. And by repeating such an affirmation, someone who's very scared of public speaking can overcome that fear very, very, very quickly. So affirmations have been used for a long, long, long time because they're so effective. And then there's another way, as I say, hypnosis, particularly self-hypnosis. A lot of people get worried when they hear the word hypnosis. They think of stage hypnosis, which is totally different. But hypnosis is simply a way of bringing yourself into a very relaxed state where you're much more suggestible. And it's possible to implant positive suggestions directly into your subconscious using self-hypnosis. So self-hypnosis is a wonderful way to overcome negative self-talk and negative beliefs that no longer serve us, and to actually implant powerful new life-enhancing positive beliefs, empowering beliefs. And, you know, affirmations and self-hypnosis can help us to cultivate this success mindset, because they reinforce this mindset, and both methods are incredibly powerful.
No, thank you so much. I just was exposed. Now, I remember I was a counselor, so I do believe in positive affirmations. It's not just this mumbo jumbo. You know, one that I would share with you, and I'm sure you might know it. I don't know if she borrowed it, but every night before I go to bed, until I fall asleep, I keep on saying the mantra, almost that positive affirmation. I love myself unconditionally and forgive myself completely.
Wonderful.
As you said, Mike, the more you do that and say that, it becomes more inherent part of you. And yeah, and what I also do is, I'm sorry. And what I also like to do is, you're right, look for small, I think you mentioned, look for those small successes just past your comfort zone, perhaps, as you grow and develop. And then that confidence, that sense of purpose and that sense of achievement fosters, and you'll be able to continue it hopefully indefinitely. Absolutely.
It's like it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, a positive self-fulfilling prophecy. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Exactly. But it's easy to always believe in the bad. Like you said, we really need to monitor our thoughts on a daily basis. I remember once my mom had suggested putting a clicker and just click how many negative thoughts that you have. And I have to say, and I admit, it might have been in the hundreds of what I was thinking to myself. And I think I've grown since then, but still there's a lot room for growth, which is why I loved your Millionaire Mind Secrets.
Great, thank you.
I think this is just not you've reached the pinnacle. It's always as a lifelong lesson and experience.
Absolutely. We're not progressing. We actually are regressing. You know, it's something we need to put into practice all the time.
Right, exactly. And also, and you might have touched on it before, but one's self-esteem, self-regard. And, you know, I have a friend who's a life coach, and she once said to me something to the effect that we can't out-earn our self-esteem. And I thought that was kind of profound, and I was wondering your take on that matter, on that subject. Can we out-earn our self-esteem?
Andy, I can't agree more with you, because that's a great saying, and it's so true. Because if we have low self-esteem, if we've low self-worth, low self-value, the culmination of that is low income potential. And this is what I experienced a long time ago, when I started my first business in 1987. And we did our office plants, tropical plants for offices. And we have maintenance team going around cleaning the plants, cleaning the leaves, watering them, maintaining them. And I grew that to be a very large business. I sold it eventually in 2001 to a multinational. But it was about 4 years it was 4 years after I started that business. So that would be around 1991. I realized, you know, I just didn't not enough money was coming in to pay the bills. And I'd been running the business for 4 years, and I started looking at things very carefully, and it was very scary. I was actually at a juncture where I was thinking of folding up the business. It was that bad, because I owed more money to our suppliers than I had coming into the business in the next month, and it was very frightening. But this all coincided with, you might say, life showing me through various experiences that my self-worth was actually very, very low, and that I didn't value myself. And I remember my next door neighbor, she said, "Mike, you're running around helping people, but what about you? What about you?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean about me? I love helping people." And she said, "Look, you need at least one night a week just to yourself." And I'm so glad she said that, because that was one of several different events that happened to prove to me that I was not valuing my own time. So I had to make this decision to either fold up the business or double the prices we were charging our clients. And at that stage, I think we had something like 50 or 70 clients. And if I double the prices, it would be fantastic. The business would be very, very profitable. But, doubling prices, that's a big jump. And I thought that even if we lose half our clients, at least we'll be better off. The business will be better off. And every single client agreed to the price increase. Now, doubling in price, that's a huge jump. And from that moment onwards, from that very month onwards, my business started to do really well. But it's when I got that, you might say, affirmation or that confirmation from my clients that the service I was providing really was good. Well, I knew it was good, but that I was worth a lot more. It became, you might say, what I was transmitting out from my heart and my mind was reflected back in terms of amazing coincidences, amazing benefits, in terms of lots of new clients kept literally flocking to the business. The business really, really, really took off without any additional effort. This is because what I was transmitting out into the universe was completely different to what I was transmitting out before. Before, I was transmitting out feelings and emotions and thoughts of lack and poverty. But when I started working on my own self-worth, and I increased my prices, and I got confirmation that I was worth more, it's like the universe then brought me huge, huge increase in business. So it's what we're, once again, our dominant thoughts and emotions, whatever our dominant thoughts and emotions are, that's what we manifest in our environment.
Thank you so much, Mike, for sharing that personal experience. I'm so glad that things worked out, and not only in your business, but internally.
Yeah. I actually sold that to a multinational in 2001. I became a millionaire, but it all started from that one experience, changing my self-worth. If you don't change your self-worth, if you have poor self-worth, poverty is what is ahead, unfortunately.
Right. It's funny. We think that people can't hear our thoughts, that it's just within us. But people perceive, and they interpret. And you're right. What you said before, it's not just your thoughts, but what you're giving that aura, what you're giving out. And somehow that lack was kind of heard or assumed other sort. And perhaps that just magnified the degree of difficulties you were experiencing at the time. And conversely, when you started thinking better, it seems that people sense that as well and
Definitely.
turn things around. That probably answers my next question. I was just wondering, in your view, why are so many people struggling financially? Is it just one of thought, relationships that they're not building, even with themselves and with others? Your thoughts on that matter?
I think, Andy, or rather, I know we are all conditioned. We're conditioned from the moment we're born to the day we die. We're conditioned by our parents, by our brothers and sisters, by our friends at the school, our teachers, by society, the governments, and very much by religion to expect second best, that we're only worthy of second best. But this is garbage. This is garbage. When we believe that life is difficult, and that's what we experience. When we expect lack, that's what we experience. And if we believe that money is evil or that rich people are greedy, then that's what we experience. We experience lack. And if we have this belief that to have little is somehow virtuous, I think that's a really, really, really damaging belief, because the fact is, when our needs are met, and we have not just enough income to cover all our basics, but we start to get rich, there is so much more we can do for society. There is so much more that we can do in the world to make a difference, to make a real difference in people's lives. But as long as we hold on to this erroneous belief that it's virtuous to have almost nothing, then that is what we experience. That is what we experience. So I think this is a very deep cultural issue. But and as I said earlier, having low self-worth, having low self-value, and I believe most people do, this is why most people struggle financially long term. So what we believe really does become our reality. Our dominant thoughts and emotions create our experiences. And I've said that several times, and I'll say it several times more, but it's such an important concept to understand. But when we start to believe and expect something far better for our lives and for our loved ones, then everything changes for us. Everything can start to change, but only providing we plan effectively. Okay, it's no good making a big goal and promising ourselves that we will double our income in the next 12 months or triple it, unless we write down, unless we put our brain to task and write down all the ways that we can come up with in which can enable us to grow our income. Unless we do this, nothing's going to happen. And when we do this, to actually then plan to make it happen, not just have it as a wonderful visualization or goal, but actually to write it down, all the ways that we could possibly do to achieve this, and then create action steps to achieve that goal. In other words, it's common sense. It's common sense. Consistent effort is vital. And Thomas Edison is a great example of that. 10,000 attempts. He didn't sort of give up once, So it's persistence. It's planning effectively. It's learning how to set goals correctly, and expanding our lives, expanding our realm of possibility. But because of conditioning, our realm of possibility, for most human beings, it has become quite small. So using the strategies, tools, and techniques I mentioned earlier, like affirmations and self-hypnosis, we can once again open out or broaden our realm of possibility. And by setting small goals and later bigger goals as our confidence grows, everything can change. Everything can change. So I think people make themselves struggle financially due to erroneous beliefs and thoughts. Simple as that.
No, a very astute answer. Mike, I guess in order to see the limitless possibilities, it has to start with fighting that conditioning. Because again, I don't want to blame it on others. I don't want to blame it on Hollywood. But to write these movies of the downtrodden poor and the wicked rich folks really don't do them justice. I probably saw that in my formative years and even after, of course, and had my own perceptions. I think in the Millionaire Mind Secrets, you mentioned about our perceptions of money and to write it down. And I was doing those exercises, and I realized, oh my gosh, I better change my philosophy about money because I won't know what it looks like.
Absolutely. I think if to avoid falling back into old, counterproductive patterns, we really do need to weed out, to discover our many negative hidden attitudes and beliefs towards money and riches, and become aware of, just like you said, Andy, how much they actually limit us. Because, and in the Millionaire Mind Secrets program, there's a very clear method whereby you can reveal these hidden attitudes. Because as long as we keep these attitudes, and they can be completely subconscious, we may not even be consciously aware of them, they can still limit us so much. And if we believe something consciously, but our subconscious believes that it's not possible, then subconscious always wins. So we all have these attitudes that influence our lives dramatically. And most of us aren't even aware of them, but there are ways to uncover these attitudes and beliefs. And then to start taking consistent, regular action towards overcoming these false beliefs. It's really, really, really important. Once again, hypnosis and affirmations are two of several tools that are really, really, really potent. But you know what? I think keeping ourselves accountable, regularly evaluating our progress, keeping ourselves accountable is really, really, really important, because there is a lazy aspect to all of us. But when we, maybe once a week, sit down and look at our life and see, have we been moving towards our goals, or have we been moving away? Keeping ourselves accountable is really, really, really important. Otherwise, we can slip back into old negative thought patterns. If we're not moving forwards, you can bet that we're moving backwards or standing still, and that's really the same as moving backwards. Now, I think another wonderful way to ensure that we don't fall back on old bad habits is to actually start planning our day. Start planning each day. I know that sounds very, a lot of people won't like to hear that, but the simple act of planning our day can make a huge difference on whether or not we can achieve our goals quickly or very, very slowly. And one of my mentors, a guy called Brendan Burchard, amazing guy, he always talks about how our email inbox is a convenient filing system for other people's agendas, and it's so important. And since not going near, the last year, I think I've started doing a lot of high performance techniques, and it has had enormous effects on my own life and businesses. And I don't go near my email until at least 11 o'clock. But what I do for the first couple of hours of each day is do something creative, something that progresses us towards our goals and what we're setting out to accomplish. If you can set aside the first part of each day when you're at your most fresh and most creative, set that those 2 hours each morning towards progressing towards your goals, amazing things can happen. And then once 11 o'clock comes, or 12 p.m., noon, then maybe start looking at email. But it just means that beginning part of every day, if we devote that towards progressing towards our goals, amazing things can happen in our lives. So that's one way of not regressing and to move forward really, 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 really rapidly. And I think finally, on this same point, if we're not choosing empowering thoughts and emotions, our negative inner voice will dominate. That's fact. If we are not, as I mentioned earlier, most people their lives are kept very small and very powerless because they give into this negative inner voice all of the time. So it's important to use the tools that I mentioned earlier. Hypnosis is a great way of rewriting old negative programming. And over time, amazing things can happen in our lives. Amazing things can happen. But as I say, only when we keep ourselves accountable. Okay?
No, thank you. Some great suggestions, Mike. And accountability and action go hand in hand with earning millions. But it was funny. Even in this interview with you, I've been calling it, I'm not sure, Millionaire Mind Secrets, but I've called it Millionaire Mindset, because that's one of the secrets, is to cultivate that right mindset. And you've given us really some sound information on that as well. And, you had mentioned your turnaround in your life with your business. What do you do? Okay, you've already cultivated this better attitude, so you think, and life is going really well. But then all of a sudden, as we all face, trials and tribulations, and a 180-degree turn happens. Absolutely. Now, what happens to your mindset? Are you going to keep it? Are you going to revert back? Counterproductive thoughts? I can't mentality, which I've been victim. I've put myself as a victim of that, or even that jealousy. My grandfather used to say, there was no one to envy. And I do believe that on some level, but this emotionally immature part of me feels, look at their life. It's easier than mine. It's not fair. So what do you do when life does hand you lemons? And
yeah. That's a great question, Andy. That's a great question, because I think my story. After selling my business to a multinational, I made some very bad investments. I trusted the wrong people, and a very short time later, just a few years later, I lost everything. I didn't have a single cent left in the world, and I had a wife and a newborn baby, and I couldn't feed them. I had no money to feed them. It was incredibly painful. But I changed that whole situation around, and that's why I created the Millionaire Mind Secret. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I changed that whole situation. It was a lot of work involved, a lot of new techniques, a lot of new understanding and learning that I had to go through. And I changed that. I changed that situation. I now have several businesses, and I do a lot of work to help people. And that's absolutely my life's work. But I remember a point a couple of years ago where we had to pay a business credit card. I think it was that particular morning. And there wasn't enough money to pay that credit card bill. And I thought, oh no, it's happening again. It's happening again. No, but I caught myself quite quickly, realizing I was starting to feel that panic of the years before when we had lost everything. And I thought, I immediately, I'd say within about 30 seconds, I consciously switched my mindset, my thoughts and emotions, the thoughts and emotions I was transmitting out into the universe. I changed it to, I will change this situation. Everything will absolutely be fine. It was almost like flicking a switch. It was almost like believing a lie temporarily. And I promise you this happened. 30 seconds, no more than a minute after I changed this mindset, my phone rang. I picked up my cell phone, and a guy on the other end, his name is Martin, he was a client. He said, Mike, you know that 10 grand that I haven't been able to pay you? Well, you'd be happy to hear I'm transferring it to you right now. I went, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it, because it was more than we actually needed. Now, we were in the red quite a bit, and it was only temporary, but it just shows how immediate change of mindset, what you're transmitting out into the universe, is reflected back differently. Now, it's really taught me something really, 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 really important. It showed me that I hadn't regressed back to the same panicky thing, that I was able to recognize it more quickly. So I think as time goes by, your ability to change mindset becomes much more proficient. And certainly in the Millionaire Mind Secrets, I teach a lot of that in the program, how to change your mindset quickly. And there was something else I just wanted to mention about, I think it's very easy to get let me put it this way. If we are surrounded by people who are critical of us, people who believe we're not capable of achieving great things, if we're surrounded by negative people, it's very easy or negative circumstances, it's very easy to get knocked down by other people's negative views about life. And if we're surrounded by people like this, it can be very hard to believe anything different. But I think it's really, really, really important, if that's the scenario we're experiencing, it's really important to seek out a good mentor to learn from. Now, I have several mentors for different areas of my life. A mentor is someone who has walked the path before you. Whatever it is that you want to achieve in life, if you find someone who has achieved that before, and if you learn from them and how they did it, it can take you very quickly to your destination. And when we seek out and find a mentor, and we all should have several mentors for different areas of our lives, it motivates us to keep moving forwards and expand our lives. Because I think if we do things under our own steam, we're just literally giving in to our own negative inner voice a lot of the time, and what we can achieve is greatly reduced. But when we see other people doing incredible things and we see how and why they succeeded, you see, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. All we need to do is seek out a great mentor and mirror what they did. And it's a fact that during our lifetime, we only have a very short time in this world. And there's only so much we can learn from our own direct experience and trial and error. So if we want to achieve something really amazing for our lives and for society, then we've no other choice but to find someone who has already achieved what we want and then learn from them and replicate what they have done. And it's actually the absolute fastest way to change our lives in every way possible. I think that's really, 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 really important. Seek out, learn from, and put into practice what you learn from those mentors.
Thank you, Mike. So you're saying it's really very important about who you associate with. And it doesn't mean necessarily to close all ties with those that are critical, because after all, they come with their own presuppositions and ideals and ideas. And they may have a way of thinking about how you should be living your life. But ultimately, you have to remain true to yourself. And you're saying, find that person who will be supportive and will be encouraging and, of course, teach. And that's the hard part. Sometimes, people are unwilling, but there's always that group or someone who's willing to step up and try to avail themselves, do something for someone else. Absolutely. And we should live our lives that way as well, because we may serve as mentors for other folks in certain strengths we have.
Yeah, exactly. We are all learning from other people, and we're also teaching other people. And I think what you said, it's so important that, when we are surrounded by people who are negative, we really need to strengthen ourselves. And if we find that hard to do under our own steam, reading from other people who have strengthened their own lives, it's enormously encouraging, motivating, and inspiring. And motivation, inspiration, encouragement, we all need it. And if we don't have those things in our lives, there is not much we can achieve, So we all need that thrust forward by seeing the examples of other great human beings. One example would be Mahatma Gandhi. He was a very, very shy man, very, very, very shy. And if he had allowed his shyness to dominate him, we wouldn't know his name today. And the British would probably still be in India today. But this small man who was incredibly shy, in fact, when he graduated as a lawyer in South Africa, he didn't go to his own graduation party because he knew he'd have to make a speech, And he was too scared to make a speech, even in front of his friends. But he had this great vision. I don't know if he had that vision back then, but I think it formed from that point forward. He had this great vision for society and what he could do for society. And that big vision and learning from other great people enabled him to not allow his shyness to jeopardize everything. And this is what can happen in our lives. We can let one little aspect of our nature absolutely sabotage everything. So we need to learn from others who've walked the path before, so that we stretch our lives and so we can thrust ourselves forward and make a big difference in this world.
Thank you so much. Always a great reminder. And also, while we're looking beyond ourselves, because again, you want to learn from others who've walked that path, the same type of path you want to walk. We can't be envious. We can't be jealous. We can't say that someone else has it easier, because these are all toxic negative emotions too. So while, yes, look beyond ourselves, stop comparing. I have to learn that lesson.
Definitely. Very
much so. I'm speaking personally, not for you or anyone in the audience, but that's something I need to learn. That thinking, woe is me, poor me, why can't it work for me?
Exactly.
And instead I'm doing what you're doing, Mike, because I don't mind admitting to everyone that this is a stretch for me. I don't necessarily like going in the forefront, in the center stage. So again, going past my own limitations is so important, especially if I tell my son to go past his. And my other child, I have two kids, and I'm seeing that lesson. And telling you and sharing something personal, my greatest mentor actually both kids are wonderful, but the youngest one is on the autism spectrum. And Mike, we had neurodevelopmental specialists telling us that Scott would never learn to speak. I was told I quote, better get him ready for an institution because that's where he's going.
Oh my
He
goodness.
was told that when he was 2 years old. He's now 16 years old, and he's crossed milestones and surpassed milestones.
Wonderful.
No one said he could do. And
So
so
he's your mentor, I'm
he is
sure.
my mentor. And I think a lot of children, we can learn from children where it's, better, seen, not heard. But I believe that everyone can teach a lesson, no matter how young, no matter how old, if we're open to it. And, in the Millionaire Mind Secrets, you're making folks be attuned to that, be open to that. And if you don't mind, and I know your philosophy is so broad, it's beyond the scope of your project and product called the Millionaire Mind Secrets. But could you tell us about, because people might be tuning in just because they want to learn more about your product. Can you tell us more the key points about it and how it's set up and what people can expect from the product?
Sure. Thanks, Andy. Well, really, what sets the Millionaire Mind Secrets apart from other similar courses? Well, firstly, I've gone from rags to riches twice during my life, not just once. And this gives me quite a unique advantage. I think that most books on success and training programs on success are quite narrow in their focus. Now, would you like to learn how to succeed at stock market trading from somebody who has been successful in interior plants? I don't think so. So when you have succeeded in one field very well, then lost everything and learnt a lot as a result of loss, and then built several totally unrelated businesses, I think there's a much broader body of knowledge and understanding there. So I believe that the Millionaire Mind Secrets will help anyone, no matter what their circumstances are, to change their circumstances and achieve whatever they want in life. And as I say, I've gone from rags to riches twice, and I've learned as much from the rags, a lot more from the rags period as I have from the riches period. And I think that when you reach the point where you aren't even able to feed your wife and your baby son who's born, it forces you into learning overdrive. And for the first time in my life, I started studying business books like crazy, and I learned so much from so many different people because I had to change our situation really fast. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the importance of taking on mentors. If we need to change our lives really quickly, we have no option but to learn from others who have done it before us. It's the quickest and easiest way. And by golly, I was in a situation that was desperate. Every morning I would literally waken up wanting to vomit with the fear. It was that bad. But I came across an amazing book that was written over 100 years ago. And this book was actually the key to us transforming our situation. And within only 3 days of putting into practice the amazing things that I was learning, everything started to change. And in fact, I started experiencing coincidences, synchronicities that affect me hugely to this very day, many, many years later. But it all happened as a result of learning something very specific. And in the next weeks and months, I discovered really the deepest secrets of the world's happiest and most successful people. Because, as I say, I started studying the world's most successful people. And I started to put into practice everything I learned. And the more I learned and the more I put into practice, the more quickly everything changed. And it worked. It worked. These secrets that I learned really, really worked. And these secrets have even enabled me to become a best-selling author and once again, a very successful entrepreneur in various fields this time. And I kept hearing this from lots of people because I would share my experiences with groups of people. And many people would say, look, you should be giving seminars and workshops and writing books on this. This material can really help large numbers of people. So that's actually why I created the Millionaire Mind Secrets training program. And the Millionaire Mind Secrets, it's a complete roadmap for changing your life, a complete roadmap for changing your life. And it will help you to create the life that you've always yearned for. And you'll be learning from someone who was highly successful and, as I say, lost it all and was able to build it all back better than ever before through studying the world's most successful people. So I spent a huge amount of time and went through terrible pain to learn what I'm teaching now. But I'm so grateful for this experience. Even though it was incredibly painful, I now have something that can help a lot of people in very, very substantial ways. And the Millionaire Mind Secrets training program, it's a multimedia success training system. And you'll discover in it the fastest and most effective way to create success, happiness, and wealth. And it's using a time-tested system that cannot fail. If you put this into practice, I promise you, it will work, okay? If you put it into practice, it will work. And it will also allow you to overcome all the conditioning that's been holding you back and to reprogram your mind for success. And I've included in it some of the most powerful mind programming technologies available, including, as I said earlier, hypnosis recordings, subliminal software, modules about affirmations, and very sophisticated mind programming techniques and tools. And these techniques and tools will keep helping to keep moving you. These techniques and tools will keep you moving forwards until you start seeing big changes in your life. And it's incredibly empowering. And I challenge anyone to test it fully and tell me that it doesn't work, because I know it does. In fact, I'm so confident that it can totally change people's lives that I offer a full 90-day money-back guarantee. So if anyone tries it and doesn't like it, all they have to do is send me an email within 90 days and they'll be refunded in full. That's how certain I am, is that it will have massive changes on anyone's life who puts it into practice. And it's actually a lot cheaper than other similar success programs. And the reason I've kept the price so low is I want to make as big a difference as possible in the lives of as many people as possible. I want to get this in the hands of people who really, really need it. So I'm almost giving it away. And this stuff has totally changed my life. And it can change the life of anyone who tests it for themselves. And there are powerful lessons. There are really powerful lessons that you can learn from both success and failure, particularly from failure. And this program will teach you how to transform any painful situation quickly, so that you can move your life in a wonderful new direction. And it doesn't matter how many times you may have tried and failed in the past, because the Millionaire Mind Secrets can enable you to start winning from now on. The great thing is we can recreate our lives every single morning. We don't have to expect the future to be the same as our past. We can recreate ourselves, and this program will certainly enable you to do this. And with the program, you can reprogram your mind for success and draw into your life anything that you yearn for. And it will help you to weed out and overcome negative beliefs and conditioning that has been blocking your success, probably, most likely, for many years. And you'll discover powerful ways to tap into your own creative inner genius so that you can find answers to all your questions. And there are several techniques, including one that Thomas Edison used to use himself, for tapping into this great wisdom, this reservoir of wisdom that we have all around us. And you'll also learn how to energize your body and mind in less than 2 minutes, so that you can get twice as much done each day with only half the effort. And the Millionaire Mind Secrets, it'll help you to build greater self-confidence and increase your self-worth so that you can earn more money and work less hard. And I think we all want to do that. It can also help you to find your own unique purpose in life, become happier, and achieve all your goals faster than you may ever have imagined possible. And as you can probably tell, I'm really proud of the Millionaire Mind Secrets. So if you want to be successful, happy, and also rich, then it can take you very, very, very far on your journey.
Thank you so much. You pretty much encapsulated everything that I wanted to know, and I'm sure the folks who are viewing want to know as well. Mike, what I also like about it, now I'm referring to your resource almost every day. I try to do it every day, depends on scheduling, but I could tell you it's almost like a work in progress. I'm going towards that right direction. I don't feel that that developmental mountain as we develop is steep, and it's difficult to climb to the top. But I think the key is never believing that you are on the top, because there's always room for growth. There's always room that we can get better. There's always room to expand our wallets even, but most importantly, expand our hearts and our minds. And that's what I love about the resource. So I'm glad that you're sharing it with the world at large, and we can learn from your experiences and failures as well. So
Thank you, Andy.
To do that.
I think you've touched on something important there. Yeah, plateaus are dangerous. Plateaus should only exist to enable us to recharge and catch our breaths, because we're in this world for a very short time. We really are. Life goes past very quickly. And I think we need to ask ourselves, on the day that we leave this world, are we happy with what we've done? Or do we have lots of regrets? And depending on the vision we have for our own life and those around us, I think we all have this amazing ability to make a big difference in the world. All of us. And we may not see it immediately, but gradually, if we start putting into what I teach, motion what I teach in the Millionaire Mind Secrets, we can expand our lives. We start to see we're capable of so much more. We're actually worthy. We're actually a good person. And when we start feeling this way towards ourselves, naturally, we have a lot more love and care and consideration and gratitude for those around us. And life is the most precious thing in the universe. I used to be a hospice volunteer. I would sit with people who were dying. This is maybe about 15 years ago. And if you want to learn the preciousness of life, spend a few days in a hospice. And you can see miracles happening in a hospice. Old family feuds and problems can just evaporate when people realize they've got so little time to live. But the problem is we all believe, I'll get around to it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow or the next day. That conflict, I'll resolve it sometime. If we live each day as though it were our last, we can make a huge difference in this world and become incredibly happy in the process.
Well, Mike, that's such a heartfelt message, and so true. We don't have to wait for a crisis to make changes. And it's all about fully functioning, being fully functioning, being our optimal best, being to reach that potential, and being okay when we don't. In other words, we don't lambast ourselves when we fall short, and to just keep on going, and to dive into first base and second and third and even home, and to keep on doing it. Mike, thanks so much for all your time. I've learned a lot. Hopefully, viewers have learned so much too. I do heartily recommend the Millionaire Mind Secrets, and thank you for making it available to us.
Thanks so much, Andy. Deeply appreciate the time with you today. It's been an honor. Thank you.